Hello and welcome to this demo video. Before we get started, I'd just like to explain to you a few things which will relate to all of the basic range spreadsheets. Number one, there is a key on the intro and setup tab of all of the spreadsheets showing what the different color headers mean. The blue headers mean that the cell's formulated, so it's locked and you can't change it. The yellow headers are where you can input data. And occasionally there might be some gray headers, which is just a different kind of data input, but we'll include instructions as and when that happens. The other thing that you can be aware of is there are ways in which you can damage the spreadsheet. So please do take a look at the link where you see this image, which will take you to a web page to show you how to better preserve your spreadsheet. Please feel free to keep a blank version of the spreadsheet somewhere, so that if you do mess up a spreadsheet that you're using, you can in fact just open a new one, a blank one. And some of the spreadsheets only last for a year, and then you've got a blank one to start the following year. So do keep a blank copy as a backup somewhere. And lastly, wherever you see this image, you can click on it. It'll take you back to the store where you purchased this product to see if you've got anything, any more products. One last thing, to see a demo video, you can click on this on a link that looks like this in order to go to the demo video, but that'll take you to the most recent demo. If in fact we've done upgrades and you're using an older version and you'd like to see the demo relating to your version, then do click on the watch on YouTube link, which will take you to that specific video on YouTube. So I think that's all you need to know. So without further ado, let's move on to this demo video. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to this demo for the project quote calculator. If you're wondering what a project quote calculator is, I will show you. It is essentially a spreadsheet which will help you to calculate the price that you need to quote someone for a project that you're going to do. Let me talk you through it. First of all, in the setup, you want to put in some categories. So these are categories. Let's just have a look at the itemized list. This is in order to categorize the work that you're doing. So you might want to break your quote down in stages. For example, you may have labor on things or material on things that you've got to buy or whatever. You might want to break it down further. You may want to break it down into different types of labor. You might want to break it down into different types of materials. You might have packaging and postage or whatever, that kind of stuff you may want to put in as one category. I mean, it's completely up to you. It depends what it is that you're doing, whether you're buying materials or whether you're spending time on this, or what it is that you're actually quoting for. So there are 10 different, you can categorize 10 things. As long as you don't have the same category name twice, you're good to go. You can list up to 10 items, so you can type in here what you want. Next thing, hourly rate. That's obviously not necessarily what you're charging, but what you would cost your time as. So it's going to take your time that you say you're going to spend at that hourly rate in order to work out the quote. So when I say not necessarily what you're charging, you may want to have a markup on that, which obviously any markup that you put on, I'll show you that in a second, will in fact add to that price. Then what you want, you can list up to 4 items which will be added to the cost price. So these are things like markup, or if you've got other costs that are a set percentage or a set value each job. So if there's one item, for example, that you want to add every single job, you can put it in here. Things like markup, whether it's a percentage or an added value, or in fact both. I'll show you in a second with PayPal fees what to do there. So these are items which you add to the cost price, and they get added on after you've tallied up all of your individual items, and maybe it either gets marked up by percentage or an added value, i.e. you can put in here £5, or in fact like this would be 30% plus £5. Those are items to be added to the cost. Below, excuse me, are items which will be based on the selling price. Now, you might have things like, once you've added your 30% markup and you're putting your price out, whatever you quote the client is therefore going to pay, and that would therefore have things like potentially PayPal fees or whatever. That wouldn't come on your cost, that would come on what the client's paying. So you want that figure to be reverse engineered off the total price to show you what it is. So those ones you put underneath here when they're based on the selling price. This you put figures that are based on the cost price, and there you put that are based on the selling price. Now, because you use one of these spreadsheets every time you do a quote, these are things you may want to fill in beforehand, and then save, and the categories as well, and the hourly rate. Fill this in first, then save yourself a default blank version to use each time. So each time you open it up to start a new quote, you've already got all of this information in, and it's all the same. If your itemized list is similar for different projects and you don't want to forget an item, you can potentially fill in the itemized list as well and then save it as a default and just put the values in later on. But I'll leave that up to you to decide what's best for you. Once you've set this up, essentially you can move on to the itemized list. The itemized list is really just a list of items using for the project. So you can put a project name in here, and then what you can do is for your description, you can put anything in here you like, just so that you know what it is that you're talking about each time, each line being a different entry, and then categorize it into a category that you've selected on the intro and setup page. So this is a drop-down list. You can select which one you want from the drop-down list. Then put in any time that it may incur, any time that's going to be required for that. That's obviously going to be costed out at your hourly rate. Remember, when you're putting in time, you can't just put in 1 for 1 hour, because if you put in 1, it's going to take a day, which is 24 hours. So you have to put the 1, then those 2 little dots, and then 0, 0 for the minutes, and that will put it in as 1 hour. If you wanted to work 36 hours, just put in 36, and it'll take 36 hours, depending on how many hours you want to work on each item. That's up to you. And then a value as well. This is a quoted value. You can put in a value. So you can put in time or amount, or both. Now, you wouldn't put both if your amount is for your time, because the time is going to work out a value anyway. But say, for argument's sake, if for this particular thing it took you an hour and it still cost you 50 quid because you had to go and buy something, then put in an hour and 50 quid, that type of thing. So these are your quoted values. These you don't fill in yet. In fact, you don't have to fill these in at all if you don't want to. But when I'll get onto this in a minute. But once you actually doing your project, if you want to come and put the time it actually took you, or the cost it actually cost you, then you can work out a comparison. You can see how you've done compared to your quote. And that's really all you need to do. So these, as I said, are optional. If you just want to use this to work out a quoted price, you don't need those. But if you'd like to come put them in afterwards, you can see a nice report regarding how you've done on each entry. Here is your quote. This report will update automatically as you enter data. There are all the different categories, total time spent in each category, total amount spent in each category. That's the total value. So that's your time at your hourly rate plus the amount. So you can see exactly what's gone on per category. There's your total. Then you've got your markup, which is what we put at the beginning, and that works out a percentage according to that. Then you've got your PayPal fees, which works out a percentage according to your total figure, and it gives you your total figure. So that there is the price you'll be quoting for all the items listed. So this top section helps you work out your quote. It lays it all out nicely so you can see exactly what it's done, what's going on, and that's the price that you then ought to be quoting. If we scroll down, then we see the different categories. So these are your quoted amounts. You've got your categories, time, amount, value, as you had up here. But what it does now is next to it, it shows you your actual. So the red ones are ones where you've gone over time or over budget. The green ones are ones where you're under time or under budget. And this automatically updates as you go along. And then lastly, it gives you an overall graph. So there's your quoted values and your actual values. So you can see at a glance exactly which categories have gone over budget or under budget. That's why, another reason why I gave you the option to do in categories. Instead of having 300 items and trying to see which one's gone over, you'll be able to see, okay, actually that particular category I tend to be underquoting, or that particular category I tend to be overquoting. And I think that is it. That's all you need to know. As I said, you want to keep one of these blank so that you can use it each time you do a new quote. So fill in as much of this as you think will be standard for each job and leave the rest blank. Save a version and then just use that one for each new job. And if you would like to sort or remove things, you can use these arrows here to sort. If you want to add something, add it in the bottom. You can sort by any of the columns. If you want to remove any data, like you want to remove a line, don't delete it or move it or remove it or anything like that. Just simply highlight what you would like to remove, right-click, and say clear contents. And then when you clear contents, it'll have a blank row, and you can resort by whichever column you want, and the blank row will disappear. So that's it from me. I wish you all the best with your projects, and I hope that this really helps you. Yes, until next time, goodbye.